Welcome to the Car Guy Show. Join award-winning automotive magazine publisher Tim Miller, along with his co-hosts, national champion race car driver Kristen Traeger, and country singer, songwriter, and driving instructor Luke Betchner as they travel the country looking at car life and car culture. Join us as we meet car guys in their cars, in their garages, at their clubs, and at their events. Come along for a real kick in the asphalt.
Last week we brought you a Saturday full of car guys and cars like these at the Keels and Wheels Concours d'Elegance in Seabrook, Texas. Well, we're back at Keels and Wheels for more Sunday coverage in this special Part Deuce episode of the Car Guy Show. Hey guys, Tim Miller here, and we have a lot to see and a lot to do. And the show starts now. High level special makes the Car Guy Show. Yeah! Ooh.
Well, hi, y'all. My name's Charles Lawrence. I'm from Oklahoma City, and this is my 1965 Jaguar XKE. I've owned the car for about 30 years, and we drove it down from Oklahoma City yesterday. It has a 6-cylinder dual overhead cam engine, 265 horsepower, and supposed to do about 150 miles an hour. We didn't hit that yesterday. I bought the car when I was living in Alaska, and the car started in San Diego. I shipped it up to Alaska, had it up there for about 30 years before I moved to Oklahoma. I've done a complete restoration on it. I've had every nut and bolt apart. Very, very comfortable, very fast. Even though it's 50 years old, it rides like a modern car, has no trouble keeping up with traffic. People are always waving when they go by, and we have a good time with it out on the highway. This is a 265 horsepower, twin cam, 6-cylinder engine. The original design was produced in 1950, and they made the same engine up until about 1985. Drive it around Oklahoma to different car events and so forth, and it's just a great car to have.
I'm Bob Dezzani, sitting next to my wife Frances, sitting in our beautiful 1972 Fiat Spider. We bought this car new in 72. We had a choice of red or orange, and Frances said, you know, I really don't like red cars. So we ended up with this car, and in hindsight it was the best move because Fiat's rust, and this color wasn't very popular, and there's not a whole lot left. So I'm kind of excited that we have a nice orange Fiat. We bought this new, as I said, in 72 for $4,100. It came with these wheels in this color, and we drove it to about 104,000 miles, and 4 or 5 years ago I said I'm going to take 2 years and restore the car. And I emphasize 5 years ago I said 2 years, and it took exactly 5 years to restore the car. So that's what happens. I decided to not make it original. I made it into what folks call resto mods. And when we get to the engine part, you'll see the engine has been modified. It's a 2-liter engine from an 82 Fiat Spider. It's a little taller than the original engine, so we had to do some things to get it to fit. A lot of the engine is orange, and you'll see that too. The interior is pretty stock. The dashboard has been customized. It's a solid piece of mahogany that I stained, ironically, to match the steering wheel, which I had 20 years ago. We put air conditioning in. My wife said, how much are we spending on restoring this car? And when I told her, she said, that includes the air, right? I said, oh, of course. He said, good, go back out into the garage and keep working on the car. So we have a custom installed air conditioning system. The interior is, other than the front seats, is 100% original. Carpeting, panels, the back, it's all the way we bought it off the showroom floor. We've done some modifications to the body. The front parking lights have been Frenched. I'm an old hot rod and custom car guy, so I wanted to introduce features to this car from years ago when I grew up. The front parking lights are Frenched into the fenders. The rear taillights are Frenched into the fenders, and they're custom-made LED lights, just 2 inches wide and 4 inches long. And have all 3 functions in there: brake lights, directionals, and running lights. I don't have the license plate lights there. When you look at the back of the car, the 2 little top tabs that hold the license plate in are LED lights. And that's how I have my license plate lights. There's a hot rod shop near where we live in McKinney, Texas, and I go over there and snoop around and I got ideas when I was restoring this for these little touches. So I've incorporated all the things that are my taste from the 60s and 70s when I was around these cars as a kid. And I knew I'd never get a 34 Ford 3-window coupe that's on the cover of ZZ Top's Eliminator album. So I said, well, I'm going to do what I can and make this my own hot rod custom car. So that's pretty much the story of what you see here. The most important thing, I found out this morning that we won best of class for this car, and that's very exciting. We haven't had this car down here since 2001 and 2002, and we came in second, which was nice. This show is the most wonderful show we've ever gone to, and this year we brought it down for the first time in many years. Like this, celebrating, we know Bob Fuller quite well, and we wanted to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Keels and Wheels. So we trailered this down, and lo and behold, this morning at 10:30 I went inside and saw 72 Fiat Spider, Bob and Francis Desani, best of class. That made my day. We're ready to go home.
You're watching the Car Guys Show.
It's a kick in the asphalt.
Hi folks, my name is Val Herrera, and this is my last recent addition to my small Alpha collection. This is a Giulietta 1960 Bertone bodied. I like it. It's I think a real pretty little car. It's kind of unusual on how I came to purchase this one. I was really looking for some parts for another Alpha of mine in England, and I tripped over a website from Australia. And so a couple months later, this thing is on a boat headed towards me, Long Beach, and I'm having a hard time explaining all this to my wife, but this is it. I love Alphas. This happens to be, like I said, the latest one in my collection. It's the reason I bought it, pretty much without going to Australia, is I had it lots of photos of the underneath. In terms of where are the weld beads and are they right? Has it ever been beat up? Is it carrying the right engine? Do the matching numbers and all that plays out okay? So for me, an Alpha guy, it was the stars aligned. And all I had to do is cough up some money, right? Instead of my part. It got a little more expensive than that. But let me show you the engine compartment, and then we'll just kind of talk about that just briefly. Again, it's matching numbers engine, 1300 cc, small displacement, 4-speed. It's all correct in terms of that's what it came with. It was purchased originally in Switzerland. Its first owner was an American. He brought it into the States about a year after he purchased it. Spent most of its 55 years in the States. 3.5 years ago, went to Australia. I found it in Australia, and then 6 months ago, it came back. So it's if you know of a good doctor, get hold of me. These guys have got my number. But I'm kind of kidding about that part. But just another pretty Alfa Romeo, I thought, to add to my collection.
My name is Nelda Luce Blair, and we're aboard motor yacht Serenity, a 1941 57-foot Elko built by the Electric Launch Company of Bayonne, New Jersey. Serenity has quite a history herself. She was built as one of 7 in 1941 from 1939 forward by a family by the name of Reynolds. I haven't quite tracked down that family, but we do know their last name. Serenity was custom built, and she was seized by the U.S. government for when the war broke out in December of 1941 for World War II. Serenity had guns mounted on her front and patrolled the eastern seaboard for U-boats, German U-boats. After that, after the war ended, Serenity was sold for scrap and went through several owners before a family finally basically bought her, redid her, totally revamped some of the interior, but keeping all of the original wood, all of the original mahogany in the hull, original wood floor down in the salon, putting in cherry wood cabinets out of the mill yard there in New Jersey into the galley or the kitchen, and all of the teak floors are also original. Serenity has been in our family for 17 years, and prior to that she was with the family for 40 years. The family that had her for 40 years actually used her as a dorm room while the daughter was going to college, so she lived aboard. Serenity's very comfortable to live aboard. She has not only the upper deck where we're sitting, and this is the captain's seat, but there's also a salon downstairs, which is basically a living room, a very large galley, which is the kitchen, for you that don't have the nautical terminology. She also has 2 staterooms, one which has double bunk beds, that's a bedroom, and then a captain's quarters, which has a full-size queen bed in it, made like a canopy. She has 2 heads, or bathrooms, one with a full shower. And so yes, we spend a lot of time aboard Serenity. We live aboard her when we're here, and we've also taken several trips on Serenity. When we purchased Serenity, she was on Lake Michigan, and that's where we found her with the family that owned her for 40 years. Their name was Baumgartner. And in order to get her to Galveston Bay, down here into the Houston area, she's too large to be shipped, can't go under bridges, so we had to cruise her all the way down here. My husband and the former owner spent many, many weeks coming down the Mississippi River, the Ten Tom Waterway, the Tom Bigby Waterway, and across the Intercoastal Canal in order to get Serenity to her new home in Galveston Bay. She seems to be very happy here because she's done a lot of charity cruises. We've done actually over 100 charity cruises on Serenity, where a 3-hour cruise is sold at a certain charity auction, and then people come aboard and we spend the day cruising beautiful Galveston Bay and entertaining. So she's done her part here in Texas. She's now a Texas boat. She doesn't have to come out of the water every year because of the ice like she did on Lake Michigan. And just recently we had a complete refurbish again done of Serenity, because when you have a wooden boat like this, they have to be cared for and they have to be periodically refurbished, or all history is lost. Serenity is a beautiful part of history, not only in the Northeast but now in Texas, and we intend to preserve her for a long time.
Well, good evening. I'm Paul Merriman, one of the co-founders of this event, co-chairman of the event. I'm sure you're aware this is our 20th anniversary, and we've had a real celebration in our 20 years. This has been really quite an event. We brought in some of the finest boats that we've ever had throughout the 20-year history of our show. We've had a lot of interesting boats over the past 20 years, but I firmly believe that this year we've got some of the finest merchandise that we've ever had on display. I've got boats that have come all the way from New York, Florida, California, Canada, Wisconsin. Our show has actually become recognized as a world-class event. And it's something we've been striving for actually for a long time. But I think we have now finally arrived that people recognize our show, they know what we are. If you get an award from Keels and Wheels, it really means something. You can take it to other shows around the country and say, I won first place at Keels and Wheels last year, and everybody knows that you've got a really fine product and you really got something that's worth looking at. So that part of it we're extremely proud of. Through the years, we've had absolutely some of the most interesting boats you can ever imagine. Here a few years ago, we had one of the Russian chase boats for their astronaut system. A really strange-looking vessel that actually came over here from Russia. So we've had some really interesting boats. Besides all these beautiful refinished wooden boats that we have, we've had some interesting products as well. You know, so much of this stuff we call it floating furniture because some of it is absolutely so pretty. A lot of guys take this beautiful piece of mahogany and they'll saw it all up and make a gorgeous dining room table out of it. You know, we take a beautiful piece of mahogany, saw it all up, you know, build a boat out of it, put 25 coats of varnish on the thing and then throw it in the water. So it's a strange hobby, but it's one that I've enjoyed and endeavored through the years. I do a lot of my own restoration work, but it's a real fun hobby to have. I first started fooling with wooden boats and doing restoration work back when I was a banker, and I sort of used it as a stress reliever. I could come home at night and hammer on boards and saw up lumber. Then after I retired, I really got more and more interested in it. So, you know, for the past 20 years, I've devoted a lot of time to rebuilding these old boats. I've got 7 boats in the show this year that I either own now or that I have restored and sold or whatever. So I'm very active in the hobby, and I enjoy it. I've served on the international board of the Antique and Classic Boat Society. I've been president of our local chapter here, the Southwest chapter of the Antique and Classic Boat Society, for a number of years. So I've been involved. I go to boat shows all over the United States. Last month I was at a boat show in Florida, before that one in New York, Idaho, Seattle. So I travel all over the country looking at wooden boat shows, a lot of it just getting ideas, talking to people and trying to encourage them to come to our event and visit us with their boats. So it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. One of the boats that I have here in the show is extremely valuable to me. It's a boat that my father bought in 1955. We actually launched it Easter Sunday of 1955. It's a little small boat that my father and mother and 5 kids went fishing in almost every weekend when I was young. And I have the boat here. It's been totally restored. It looks exactly today as it did the day it rolled out of the factory when my father bought it in 1955. It's something I'm really proud of. It's a true family heirloom. We call it generations because there's been 4 generations of the Merriman family that have spent some time in that boat. So it's very special to me. I've got another boat here that is a 1967 that I had when my daughter was born in 1967. So it's a very special boat also. It's been around a long time. I call it Michelle. It was named after my daughter. So that's a couple of the boats that I have here on display today. I've really enjoyed the past 20 years. It's been quite an adventure and probably one of the more rewarding things that I've done in my lifetime. Putting this thing together from day one when Bob Fuller and I sat up here in the clubhouse and got to talking about old cars and old boats. We had been friends for a while at the time, and he began to talk about the fact that he loved old antique cars. And I said, well, gee, that's interesting. I love old antique boats. And we said, gee, this would be a great place to have a car show. And I said, well, it'd be a great place to have a boat show. And the conversation grew from there, and here we are 20 years later putting on one of the premier shows in the entire United States. It's amazing, and it's been a wonderful and rewarding journey. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, that's it for this weekend at Keels and Wheels in Seabrook, Texas. No one knew that 20 years ago that Bob Fuller and Paul Merriman would decide to put on a boat and car show. They thought they'd try something different. Paul, of course, loves boats, and Bob on the car side. Little did they know that 20 years later, here we are with the 20th annual Keels and Wheels Concours d'Elegance, and it is yet another great event with beautiful weather, great cars, great boats, all have come together. We would like to thank Paul and Bob for inviting us out to cover the event and for all they've done over the last 20 years, and for the Lakewood Yacht Club volunteers who are just incredible. A great group of people that love to take care of everyone here. The hospitality is second to none. So remember, next year, the first weekend of May, you got to come down to Seabrook, Texas. This has been a special edition of the Car Guys Show, and we hope to see you next time.
Like this show? Want more? Then head to WatchPTTV.com, the new 100% free PowerTube TV streaming network. Home of the best classic and new motorsports racing and build shows on the web.